There are just 4 days left for you to have your say and put a submission in on the government's new cash acceptance regulations. The Competition and Consumer Industry Code's Cash Acceptance Regulations 2025 was released 2 weeks ago in an exposure draft form. So this is currently at Treasury, and for the next 4 days up till Friday, October 31, you can make a submission on this set of new proposed regulations. The Citizens Party is condemning this set of changes to cash acceptance because although it says that, cash acceptance, although they talk about mandating cash, it actually does the opposite. This new policy only applies to supermarkets and petrol stations having to accept cash and only up to $500. Every other small and medium-sized business in the country is being told you don't have to accept cash if you don't want to. It's optional. And furthermore, this new set of regulations allows for any company in the country, including supermarkets and service stations, to apply for exemptions. If it's too expensive to transport cash, if you're too remote and the infrastructure is not there to handle the cash in the economy, they can apply to the ACCC to be let off as well and go cashless. So it's a dangerous piece of change to regulation because it is actively helping, aiding and abet the banks from transitioning us to a cashless economy, moving away from cash and dismantling the infrastructure. So we condemn this. So when I spoke last week and put that first video out, there were some things I didn't know. First of all, there is a way that the Senate and the Parliament can reject these changes to the regulations on cash. They can put forward what's called a motion of disallowance. Now, when it comes to secondary legislation like these changes under the Consumer Act, a motion of disallowance can be brought by any member of the House or Senate, providing that it's done within 15 days of the regulations being presented to Parliament. The soonest timeline where these new changes to the cash regulations could be presented to Parliament is at the end of November. They've got to first finish their consultation process. We'll be pushing very hard to get a motion of disallowance from the Senate, and we anticipate that one will come. What we need you to do, and what anyone concerned about keeping cash in the economy can do right now, is not only make a submission, but get on the phone and call your senators, especially from the Greens, from the crossbench, and from the coalition, Liberals and Nationals. Focus your calls on them and make it known that you oppose the limitation of cash and you want to have a full economy-wide cash mandate. All businesses should accept cash if they're trading, if they've got walk-in customers. That is necessary to maintain the infrastructure. And it's going to be very critical because it goes counter to this bank's agenda for a cashless economy. So the motion to disallow is our way of pushing back on this change of regulation. Below this video, you'll see a set of links, including to get the Senate contact information. You can go to aph.gov.au, the Parliament website, and you'll find links there to find their phone numbers and emails. So just back on the actual legislation, though, because there's another dimension to this. One of the problems that the cash economy is facing at the moment is the banks have been closing branches. They have been shutting down ATMs and pulling them out of the walls and leaving us with less infrastructure to deal in cash, putting the burden back on businesses, and especially regional businesses that are remote, and it's hard to get cash in and out of those very remote towns. This is a real factor. And so remember back about 16 months ago, the Senate released a committee report. It was a report on regional bank branch closures, and it came out with 8 recommendations. Recommendation number 1 was to classify banking services and cash services as essential services, legally requiring those services to be maintained at an adequate level in all towns in Australia. Now, changing that and making that a legal requirement actually puts restrictions and limitations on banks closing branches wherever they want for their own greedy reasons. But the recommendation 2 is also critical. It states that the government should institute create an expert panel to present a public bank option, whether through Australia Post or standalone, that could be legislated and brought in as competition, but as a means to guarantee minimum banking services in these towns. Now, 16 months on, the government has not responded to those recommendations at all, and we are calling for them to absolutely get out there and get this expert panel presenting the option for a public bank, because it will therefore guarantee the infrastructure is there for the cash economy. That's another thing. When you lose that infrastructure, you see very quickly that it's hard to get back. And this is what Norway and Sweden are experiencing at the moment, where the governments have had to legislate cash mandates for businesses and shops to accept cash again, because they went so hard down this electronic digital pathway that they realized it did a lot of harm to the disadvantaged, the elderly, those without access to technology or cards and so on. So there is a lesson here that Jim Chalmers ought to learn from what's already been done abroad and the mistakes that they've made, if he's willing to actually look at that. So again, two things, 4 days, get your submission in on this by October 31. The link is below to write your submission in your own words, and support and get your pressure on the Parliament for a motion of disallowance. Thank you.
Authorised by Craig Isherwood, Citizens Party, Melbourne.